The second expression of Aries that we're studying takes us from the 6th to the 10th degree. And this expression is called drive. And we have in Aries the capacity to really force itself into the world, to push hard. And we can understand why. Having considered the first expression of emergence, we have this very poorly established spirit, a sense of self as only just emerging, not really sure of what's happening, and trying to sort of just be alive without knowing who to be or what to be in the first expression of emergence. Now we're on the second message here, the second aspect of Aries, which is the drive to become unique. It is understood in the 6th degree, which is the square brightly lighted on one side, that you need to have a single focus of push. You can't just throw yourself willy-nilly into the world hoping that you know, something will stick, because it won't. You learn quite early on that unless you actually decide who you are, then you become nothing. Just an amorphous mass of opinions and behaviours that you borrow from somebody else. It doesn't establish yourself. And Aries is not about that. Aries is cardinal fire, ruled by Mars. And we need that punch into the world in order to establish uniqueness of being. So this 6th degree of Aries does that. It says, right, this is what I am. I am moving in this direction. This is my personality. This is who I am. This is my claim on the world. And it's a force. And that's because it's the force of survival. It's the survival instinct establishing itself into the understanding that we cannot survive unless we define our identity very clearly. And that is necessarily unique. So Aries has the job of saying, I am unique. I survive only because I'm unique. My opinion, therefore, is the most prominent one. If you don't like it, not my problem. This way of being Aries, which comes in for quite a lot of criticism. Aries is seen to be insensitive and selfish and quite unaware of the other on the face of it. But if we understand actually what's really going on underneath it all, you have to forgive Aries a little bit for being first. In other words, the young, the baby just coming out of being born into claiming an identity as such. And you wouldn't mind very much if a child said, I for a while in its life. You'd celebrate that because that's what makes it survive and take up a position, a unique position in life. So we have to know that all of the things that we go through in our lives are explained by the zodiac. That's what we're trying to do with astrology. We're looking at 360 life lessons, generally, philosophically speaking. And that part of our lives where we're quite young, baby level, and we want to exist and know who we are uniquely, that is given to the job of Aries. And this second expression of drive begins with the 6th degree. And it says, right, if you want to know who you are uniquely, you have to focus on exactly one thing. That's the 6th degree. However, we come to the 7th degree and we realize that when we push that hard into the world, there is a pushback. There's an echo. Like, oh, okay. And on the one hand, that's a slap in the face. I want to be like this and I can't because I'm being stopped by that. And you see the mirror reflection of all that you are the shadow bit, the bit that you haven't been conscious of, there in front of you, in your face, right there in your circumstances. And that's the thing that's stopping you from moving forward to greater and greater self-expression. The echo of you, the denied, shadowy, problematical reflection of yourself in the world. And the real secret here, which very high level of wisdom, is that it's not only in the world, it is the world. The world that you perceive is the reflection of that which you have not yet assimilated in consciousness. So the 7th degree of Aries, this is the man who's expressing himself in 2 realms. It's just the beginning of awareness of the fact that the world is the other half of me. I've got this inside sense of self that wants to let itself out. And then I come to realize that my life itself, all of it, is just me out there. I'm putting out there the bits that I haven't actually come to terms with yet. We don't really need to go any further through the zodiac if we get that message. We can stop at number 7 and that's it, we're enlightened. But that's not what people do. What people do, they can't take that wisdom. It's just too much. It's just mind-blowing. And the hat with streamers is how we protect ourselves from the sun. That's what the hat does. And the sun is the light of consciousness. We can't gaze at the sun. We can't take it. It's just too much. We can't assimilate enlightenment. We're just not ready. And we have to protect ourselves from knowledge of what is. And therefore, the 3rd degree of Aries is learning that whatever urge you have to push yourself uniquely, self-expressively into the world is met by an echo which you can't cope with. So you protect yourself from the implied wisdom that echo is you. And what that means is that we're in an extraordinary, vulnerable state where everything that we create is our responsibility. Now, when you're an older man, an older woman with wisdom who's gone through it all, you can just say, okay, I get it now. But not as a child, not as a baby. And we have to look at Aries in those terms. It just can't cope. So it wears this hat to protect itself. What does that mean? Figuratively, the hat is the shield we put up between the feedback that's there, the perceptions that are available in potential terms. We guard against all of them coming into us. So we actually need to be somewhat blind in order to cope. It's just too much to see all that is. We would just couldn't cope. We can't take it all into a limited consciousness. We haven't grown far enough in consciousness to take in the mystery. It's just infinite. And our electrical ability, the ability of the synapses in the mind, in the brain, to carry that mind of all and everything, that would just blow. We would have an electrical explosion in our heads if we tried to. So we protect ourselves from that. And this protection is a survival instinct. We need to do that or we're in real trouble. Learning how to avoid overwhelm through taking on too much requires a level of intuition that is a bit special. And we can think of Aries as a highly intuitive sign. It's normally suggested that the water signs know all about intuition and emotion and so on. But actually, Aries is the most emotional of the 12 signs. And it has its own specific sensitivity, its own way of being sensitive. They're very spirited Aries, almost nervous and quick to react. You might find them prickly at times, because they pick up signals first, because it's Aries, and don't really know what to do with them. They haven't assimilated the wisdom to just take their time to contemplate before responding. That's Taurus's job to do that. But Aries is fast and immediate, really. And so these clues that Aries needs in order to survive have to be taken on board quickly. And so there's this almost knee-jerk, reflexive attitude to respond quickly to the signs. But what we're looking at in this 9th degree is the crystal gazer. And the crystal gazer does work on the psychic level by tuning in through the use of a crystal. A crystal ball is a device through which we can train ourselves to awaken a subtle level of intelligence, aligned with the right brain. It's intuitive, it's grasping the truth before it's understood the truth. It's not looking for logical explanations, it just knows something. That gift is with Aries, and they respond, shall we say, unconsciously, immediately, without processing that information necessarily. And they do this by having this fast ability of mind just to notice lots of what's going on and just respond immediately to that without thinking it through. That's what gives it the speed. If you have an input of data and you process it before acting, that processing takes time. And Aries is not about taking time, it's about being first and moving quickly into everything it does. So the crystal gazer trains in subtle knowledge. What this means in practice is that you study something like crystal gazing, palm reading, tarot cards, astrology, where you can't really explain how you know what you know. You just allow yourself to know it. And so Aries has this ability it develops in the 9th degree of opening up the aspect of mind that can know things straight away without process. And when this happens, the traditional way of understandings are seen not to be complete, and in some cases false. But really what we're talking about is not so much negation of previous teachings. We're talking about a more subtle, deeper, wider, nuanced understanding of what went before. Aries 10 is about a teacher understanding old symbols differently and teaching new interpretations. And here we have the same idea that Aries is all about being first, and newness is first, isn't it? So you're not wanting to look at old teachings just for the answer to questions, but for the opportunity as a springboard to go to a new knowledge, to be first with a new idea. I had a close friend who's very strongly Aries, and he was first at everything. I mean, if we were playing a casual game on a picnic or something, he'd want to win every race quite aggressively. And he was always first with new ideas. There was a time before computers were in general consciousness in my era and my age group, and he was the first to know how to use them, and he learned everything really quickly, and only to the certain level where as soon as everybody caught up with what he knew what to do, he'd go on to something else. And he taught dances and until his students had actually become quite good at teaching dances themselves, and then he found something else to do in another pioneering area. He always wanted to challenge himself to take what was understood before and make it different, just give his own twist on it, and he wanted to be the first at doing that. And in the end, he wanted to be really the only one doing that. If he wasn't the first, he wouldn't do it. And if he was then caught up by others, he still wouldn't do it because he's no longer unique. And of course, that comes in for a lot of criticism because our society doesn't support that kind of personality, really. We put up with people like that. They tend to become overblown in their confidence, and that looks as though it's arrogance and stuff. And this is because they don't have the confidence. When you see somebody being self-proclaiming, it's because they lack confidence, isn't it? And Aries can be like that. Their selfish expression, their arrogance and so on, is just what they need to do to protect themselves from being seen as vulnerable. It's a part of the hat with the streamers energy to just say, oh, I'm okay, nothing wrong with me, because there is something they think of as wrong with them in that they're not established. So one of the ways to avoid being found wrong and therefore diminished in your self-confidence is to actually write the script yourself. And this is what Aries likes to do. They like to write the script themselves, be the first to say, no, this is how it is. You're wrong with your old knowledge. This new knowledge is what I've understood first. And therefore they can't really be criticized because nobody kind of understands what has not been seen before. It's new. You have to check it out, just see if it works before you can argue. And so the movement of Aries, always first, always pioneering, always in front, includes in the area of wisdom and knowledge as well. And so they speak as though they know secrets which nobody else knows. And sometimes those secrets check out and they become the seed form of a new area of knowledge. Sometimes they don't, but it's actually a refreshingly original take on life. And so you have this potential in Aries to be an innovator of new knowledge. So if we summarize these 5 degrees from 6 to 10 as the driving force, the drive of Aries, we have the understanding that you have to move in one direction. You have to understand that everything that you get back as an echo of that push back against you, is actually your own issues. And you have to protect yourself against what cannot yet be taken in. There has to be this understanding that when you pioneer into new areas, it's dangerous. There be dragons. You don't know what you're going to come across when you're breaking ground. So you have to have this potential shield to stop unwanted energies entering your system. And to develop the ability to tune in to what might be dangerous comes with the 9th degree. The crystal gazer just learns to be much more sensitive. And there's this tremendous sensitivity in Aries, contrary to their reputation. Very, very sensitive, intuitive people, very quick to pick up on a point, very quick to understand a situation. How else can they be first? They understand something quickly enough to act. Those are the two things. It's not enough just to move quickly if you don't know which way to move. So you have to be sensitive to opportunity. And this is the greatest gift of Aries. They're sensitive to opportunity. They're sensitive to the change in a situation. They feel that it's moved on before anybody else feels that. And this comes from the 9th degree. And then they lead, they pioneer, they tend to take a group of people into a new level of consciousness by saying, look, no, this is how it is. They speak the future. And this drives a direction. You know, this is, if you're driving a car, you know, you tend to kind of go where your eyes take you, don't you? I mean, if you don't keep your eyes on the road, then you're in deep trouble. So Aries does that. It keeps its eyes actually on what's next, always looking towards the future. And that driving force pulls people along very often. Aries can lead. As well as pioneer, they can lead others. They don't like to be held back in that job. The really good leaders, Cancer's good, Leo's good, they don't mind being held back by their followers, but Aries isn't that kind of leader. They'll go there first, they'll pioneer something and say, hey, come and have a look at this, but when you get there, they're moved on. And this is because their driving force drives into a new direction all the time.